What the earthquake in Japan means for food prices, food safety, and U.S.-based food companies. A new program that rewards people for eating healthy that has proven successful, and new ways to look at recipes. For the week of March 21st, 2011, this is Food News Today. Good morning, and I hope you're having a great morning. Immediately following Food News Today, we continue with a live discussion in our chat room below. I do hope that you'll join us and ask your own questions. Food News Today is sponsored by Conagra Foods, who shares with me the desire to provide the most current, interesting, and unbiased food news. In today's Economy and Spending Report, we take a look at the consumer impact of the earthquake in Japan. The recent tragedy will affect the global food supply and might just be the event that triggers the reverse of our dependence on Asia for cheap foods. Now, Americans might complain about the increase in food prices, and food prices are going up, but they will pay for the safety of their food supply. In a current quick poll that we're running on supermarketguru.com, 82% of those who have already taken our survey report that since the earthquake and tsunami in Japan, they are concerned about the safety of foods coming from this part of the world. 3 in 4 people surveyed are concerned about radioactivity. 65% are concerned about the general food safety issues. Over half the respondents say that as a result of the earthquake, foods imported from all of Asia will be more expensive. But only 1 in 4 say that there will be stricter standards as a result for safety and more testing. On our Supermarket Guru fan page on Facebook, Carrie Stessel says, quote, "We need new toxicity labels on all imported food products." Now, this past Monday, the government ordered Fukushima, the site of the troubled nuclear power plant, as well as several neighboring farms, to suspend shipments of spinach and rapeseed after radiation exceeding regulated safety limits were detected in some produce. The government also banned sales of raw milk that was produced in this region. On our end, the FDA is monitoring Japanese food for radiation contamination, which, and I quote, may include increased and targeted product sampling. The question that I have is, where are these extra inspectors coming from? Where's the extra funding for it coming from? Seafood, snack foods, and processed produce from Japan represents only less than 4% of all food imported into the U.S. And also keep in mind that products that are already here in the country are safe because they were shipped prior to the incident. But this story may have much more impact than that. Over the past few years, foods from China have been a concern to retailers and consumers alike, and we can expect that food from Japan may also join this list. However, there's no doubt in my mind that the seafood supply will be directly affected. The length and degree of seafood supply disruptions from Japan and China to the U.S. will clearly take time to determine. However, Asian seafood exports won't likely be available in the U.S. for a significant period. Reports from Bloomberg News and other health officials says that exposing food to radiation doesn't always make it harmful to human health. Fruits and vegetables, for example, are often irradiated to increase their shelf life. But foods that contain radioactive nuclei, subatomic particles that emit gamma rays, can be toxic and may cause cancers. Now, there's insufficient data available to say just how far the effects of the radiation will linger. What we do know is that radioactive elements are heavy. They don't remain airborne very long. Therefore, soil may be contaminated within just a 10-mile radius, posing a danger for human occupation for at least 3 decades. Food production from an area 10 to 20 miles away may be unsafe. Now, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, we Americans now consume more than 16 pounds of seafood each year, and the 2010 dietary guidelines recommended that we increase our consumption for health reasons. Canada's Agri-Food Trade Service reports that China alone, the world's top producer and consumer of fish and seafood products, exported more than $11.5 billion in fish and seafood products in 2009. 20% of it came here to the U.S. Japanese combined exports of fisheries, farm, and forestry products rose 13% to about $2.3 billion, of which a third came to the U.S. Shoppers can expect to see more produced or made in America signage as supermarkets start to promote domestically produced replacements, like Gulf shrimp instead of shrimp from China, or U.S. farm-raised tilapia. Now, if supplies remain short, prices will remain higher longer, and the focus on the integrity of the source of the fish will only intensify. In health and wellness circles, the following question is being constantly debated. Just how can we increase the consumption of fruits and vegetables among the populations that need them the most? Michelle Nishan, CEO, President, and Founder of Wholesome Wave, has the answer. Michelle is a James Beard Award-winning chef, restaurateur, author, and now has created this nonprofit whose mission it is to empower historically excluded urban and rural communities to make better food choices. How? Well, by increasing the access and affordability of fresh, locally grown foods. I spoke to Michelle via Skype last week. Michelle, welcome, and tell us about Wholesome Wave.
Wholesome Wave is really, truly all about trying to take the local, sustainable, change food system movement and make it viable by creating larger markets. So we work on projects and partner with over 30 nonprofits to really explore and seriously underserved urban and rural communities throughout the United States, whether or not demand exists for healthier food. And happily, our programs with the partners that we're working with are proving that there is demand for healthier food in underserved communities, and they've been quite successful. It's exciting.
So you must be a fan of eating locally or locale?
I really am not a true classic locavore. I just don't think it's possible or practical to be able to do that. I mean, just if you look at beef, for instance, for Long Island to be able to follow a 200-mile protocol to be able to get all of the beef supply necessary for Long Island, you'd have to move all of the people off of Long Island and some of the surrounding areas in New York to really be able to raise enough cattle to take care of that type of population. So I believe in local when it comes to fruits, vegetables, things like that. Locale is important when we look at places like Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, where it's very, very difficult to grow the fruits and vegetables that folks need to be able to consume year-round to have a healthful diet. They're going to be importing fruits and vegetables, and hopefully they're going to be exporting grass-fed animals. But I'm not one of those kind of put a compass on the map and draw a circle and you should be eating everything from within that distance. I don't think it's practical, and in some places geographically not possible.
Now, I know you talk a lot about food deserts. So why do food deserts exist? And what are some of the problems that are common to these geographic areas?
Food deserts exist simply because there's a lack of affordability in those neighborhoods, whether it's urban or rural. It's interesting because now everybody's like trumpeting and going around and waving flags. Oh, we need supermarkets in food deserts. And everybody seems to have forgotten that just 20 years ago, there were grocery stores in underserved communities, and they left because the people that live there don't have the type of income that allows them to afford to shop the whole store. So if you're someone who's living in an underserved community, you're underemployed or unemployed, you're at or below the poverty level, you get food stamps, which gives you $4 a day to spend on food, you go to a grocery store, a head of broccoli is $2. A 4-pack of instant noodles is $1.69. And frankly, we've seen this. You only have $2 to spend on dinner for a family of 4 because you're near the end of the month on your food stamps. What are you going to put in front of your family? A quartered head of broccoli or a bowl of something hot? So when you have a population that can't afford to shop the whole store, grocery stores simply aren't viable in underserved communities.
Now, Michelle, do you see a demand for fresh fruits and vegetables and healthier foods in these food deserts?
We see solving the problem as not so difficult. It's complicated to explain, but we do see some of our programming as proving that the demand does exist. The difficulty is really kind of aggregating or coordinating the voice of the people in these communities to understand how much power that they hold. For instance, Phil, when you look at food stamps, they're so thinly spread that a recipient gets $4 a day to spend on food. But if you add all the food stamp recipients together this year, they will be receiving $82 billion for just this year that they can only spend on food. Now, the majority of that spend is going to go to highly processed foods, instant noodles, instant rice, things that can cook quickly on a hot plate if you cannot afford an apartment that actually has a working stove. These are the recipes of these communities.
Can you tell me about your double value coupon program and some of the effects that it already has had?
What we've done with our programs is raise private funding where we'll go into these communities and say, take your food stamps, buy whatever you want. But if you come to this place where we have locally grown produce available, we'll double your money. So we're not restricting anybody's choice. We're actually giving them more choice, because the truth in these communities is that they simply don't have the choice of being able to choose fruits and vegetables for their families. We believe if we can shift that spend, that amount of money, just 5% say, into these communities in fresh food access, you could actually build multiple food businesses in these communities and really make a difference.
And you can find out more about Wholesome Wave by just visiting wholesomewave.org. And be sure to tune in next week for more with Michelle on why increasing taxes is not the answer, and other ideas to add more money to the SNAP and food stamp program. One of Marshall McLuhan's most infamous quotes from 1964 is, "The medium is the message." And in consumer trends today, nothing could be truer. It's how we communicate that makes all the difference, and whether or not people are listening. Well, the website good.is is the same instinct and came up with a contest to redesign recipes in order to inspire better cooking and empower cooks into the kitchen. Now, the objective of this project is to inspire a new generation of cooks and non-cooks who learn a bit differently with clear, simple, easy to understand graphics. The assignment was to redesign any recipe. It could be hand-drawn or hand-printed, photographic or typographic, wordy or wordless, vegetarian, pescatarian, or even full of meat. The Redesign the Recipe project wanted original, interesting, and appealing recipe redesigns. The winner will be selected by Good staff and announced on April 2nd. Here are a couple of my favorites, which are designed to make us think about our foods and how to prepare them in ways that go well beyond that typical word-laden recipe that's found on magazine or web pages. Egg curry and eggplant rougale. And here are a few from Kate Sutton, including Go Faster pancakes, banana and walnut loaf, and pasta alla norma. This one for lasagna. Just look at these colors and how appealing this is. And this representation of several ways to cook an egg from eataduckimust.com. Now, this is for me and some of you. But by the way, eat a duck I must is an English phrase for the Japanophile who's trying to remember how to pronounce itadakimasu. Boy, did I mess that one up. Which loosely translates to let's eat. For Food News Today, I'm Phil Lempert. Thanks for joining us. If you have a colleague in retailing, the media, or even a blogger who would just like to receive our advance email knowing what stories are coming up on the following day, please send them to foodnewstoday.com in order to sign up. Next week's stories will be emailed to you next Tuesday. Have a great week.